Never in history has a comet behaved like this, and if what NASA and Harvard are saying is true, Mars may only have months left. Stick around and don't forget to hit subscribe, because what I'm about to share will keep you staring at the sky differently tonight. So here's the deal. For months, astronomers believed interstellar object 3I divided by Atlas was harmless. Just another icy wanderer from the depths of space, cutting across the solar system on its way back into the black. They told us it would skim past Mars. No impact. Nothing unusual. But then, the data changed. Harvard's Avi Loeb, along with researchers at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, started running new calculations, and what they found wasn't comforting. Instead of drifting safely by, Atlas' trajectory is tightening. Its path isn't random, its speed isn't stable, and for the first time ever, the numbers whispered something chilling. A possible direct collision with Mars. To really understand why scientists are losing sleep over Atlas, we need to step back. Let's talk about what makes this object so different from anything we've ever seen before. When astronomers first spotted Atlas, they classified it as 3I, meaning it's the third known interstellar object to enter our solar system. The first was Oumuamua in 2017, a long, cigar-shaped rock that behaved so strangely it left even the most skeptical scientists scratching their heads. The second was Borisov, a much more traditional comet that zipped through in 2019, and now here we are staring at Atlas, number 3. But Atlas doesn't just carry the legacy of those earlier visitors. It seems to be rewriting the rules. Think about it like this. Most comets, when they near the sun, begin to boil. Their icy surfaces release gas in random bursts, forming tails that stretch for millions of kilometers. It's messy, unpredictable, and chaotic, like a block of dry ice left on a hot sidewalk. But Atlas? No. Its tail isn't chaotic at all. It's patterned. Every 17 minutes, almost like a heartbeat, it releases a pulse. The gas doesn't just spray outward randomly. It jets in a direction that shifts its path ever so slightly in a way that looks intentional. Now, if you're listening to this while lying down, just close your eyes for a moment and picture it. A black backdrop of space, silent and endless. In the distance, a glowing object races past the stars, shimmering faintly as light from the sun strikes its surface. And then, a sudden burst of blue-white gas, like steam venting from an unseen machine. 70 minutes later, another, and another. Over and over, tick-tock, like gears in a cosmic clock. That's what we're dealing with. Not random, not natural-looking, something almost engineered. Harvard's Avi Loeb has been at the center of controversy before. He argued that Oumuamua might not have been natural, that it could have been a probe, a kind of light sail drifting between stars. Many laughed, many dismissed the idea, but here we are again. And Loeb isn't the only one whispering anymore. Even within NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, a few voices have admitted privately that Atlas is unlike anything they've ever modeled. And here's the kicker. Spectroscopy. That's when scientists break down the light, bouncing off an object to study what it's made of shows things that don't line up with a normal comet. A comet should reflect simple things: water, ice, carbon compounds, maybe a little rock. But Atlas shows metallic glints, shiny spots that wink in and out of view, as if hidden under its dusty shroud are panels, structures, or, dare I say it, machinery. One astronomer described it off the record like this: "It's as if you shined a flashlight onto a mirror in space, and for just a fraction of a second, something polished reflected back." That's not supposed to happen with frozen dirt. And then there's the trajectory. Comets don't speed up. They don't change course in clean, measurable ways. But Atlas is tightening its path toward Mars, and every pulse of gas seems to be nudging it closer. It's as if something wants it there. Now, let's imagine the worst-case scenario. If Atlas impacts Mars head-on, the energy released would dwarf anything we've ever seen in recorded history. Think about the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs on Earth, about 10 kilometers wide, striking with the force of billions of atomic bombs. Now picture something faster, stranger, with an energy release calculated in the millions of nuclear detonations. Mars, with its fragile atmosphere and barren deserts, would never stand a chance. A crater the size of a small country would scar its surface. Shock waves would ripple through its thin sky, and the orbiting spacecraft, our robotic eyes, our link to the red planet would likely be destroyed instantly. But here's where it gets chilling. Mars isn't empty. It's a hub. Right now, there are American, European, Chinese, and even Emirati spacecraft studying it. Billions of dollars, decades of effort, and countless hours of human labor orbiting and crawling across that red dust. A single impact could erase it all. And what about Earth? You might be wondering, we're safe, right? Maybe, maybe not. If the collision kicks enough debris into space, some of it could wander across millions of kilometers and head straight for us. A chain reaction, a cosmic billiards game where one strike on Mars sends fragments spiraling toward Earth. And yet, there is still that nagging detail. The precision of the pulses, the metallic glints, the fact that Atlas doesn't behave like an object of ice and rock. Some scientists are beginning to whisper, carefully, quietly, behind closed doors. What if it's not an accident? What if it's not natural? Because if that's true, then Mars isn't just in danger of an impact. Mars might be the target of something deliberate. And if Mars is the target, what does that mean for us? Now, let's take a deep breath here. Imagine this slowly with me. A chunk of interstellar material, bigger than anything we've tracked before, rushing through space at 87 kilometers per second. That's faster than a bullet, faster than anything humanity has ever put eyes on. It's almost too fast to imagine. And yet, it's real. The most advanced telescopes we have confirm it. But here's where things turn strange. Atlas isn't acting like a comet. Its tail doesn't trail in the usual messy stream of gas and dust. Instead, it pulses. Every 17 minutes, like clockwork, bursts of gas shoot outward, almost mechanical, almost deliberate. Astronomers say it looks like steering, as if this thing isn't just tumbling aimlessly, but adjusting its path, step by step, toward a destination. And when spectroscopy was turned on it, the light bouncing back carried an even stranger signature. Metallic glints, sharp edges hidden under the dust, and reflections that don't match ice or rock. Some are convinced these are just quirks of the data. Others quietly whisper about something more. That maybe, just maybe, this isn't a natural body at all. Let's pause and think about the stakes here. If Atlas does strike Mars, we're talking about an explosion equal to millions of nuclear bombs going off at once. A crater 60 kilometers wide would rip into the surface. Mars's thin atmosphere would flash with heat and shock waves. Every robotic spacecraft orbiting the planet, from NASA's Odyssey and Maven to Europe's Mars Express to China's Tianwen, one would be at risk of being wiped out in an instant. Years, even decades of exploration gone in a single fiery moment. And then comes the darker possibility. What happens to the debris? What happens to the spray of shattered Martian rock and comet fragments that blast into orbit? Some of it could linger, but some of it could spiral outward toward Earth. It might take months, maybe years, but fragments of Atlas could rain down on our own planet. NASA knows this. ESA knows it. Space agencies across the globe are quietly scrambling, holding emergency meetings that never make the evening news. September 2025, that's the window that matters. Every pulse from Atlas brings it closer. Every adjustment narrowing its aim. The clock is ticking, and right now, no one has an answer. And yet, the strangest part isn't the math. It isn't the speed. It isn't even the possibility of impact. The strangest part is the behavior. Imagine a comet steering itself. Imagine a rock from interstellar space that isn't just a rock, but something far more intelligent, far more deliberate. And if it is, then the question becomes not just, will it hit Mars? But why is it trying to? So, what do you do when something that shouldn't exist is racing toward Mars at 87 kilometers per second? For NASA, ESA, and other space agencies, the first reaction was denial. Denial, followed by quiet panic. On paper, the numbers looked impossible. Objects don't just change trajectory like this. They don't pulse on schedules. And they certainly don't throw off metallic signatures. For a while, the official line was, it's a comet behaving strangely. Nothing more. But behind closed doors, the mood shifted quickly. In Pasadena, California, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory ran simulations day and night. Teams who normally worked on spacecraft navigation were pulled in to double-check the math. At Harvard, Avi Loeb's group published preliminary warnings only to be drowned in criticism from colleagues who thought the claims were too extreme. And in Europe, the ESA quietly began running impact likelihood scenarios, trying to figure out what a Mars collision would look like. Now, here's where the problem gets complicated. Earth has had close calls with asteroids before, and we've at least started preparing for that. We've run missions like DART, slamming a spacecraft into an asteroid to test if we can nudge it off course. But that was a small, slow-moving rock compared to Atlas. Atlas is in another league entirely. Its speed alone makes it nearly impossible to stop with any technology we currently have. And even if we could intercept it, here's the question no one wants to say out loud. Should we? If Atlas is acting under intelligent control, trying to alter its path could provoke consequences we don't understand. Imagine tugging on a thread in the dark, not knowing if it's attached to a sweater or to a tripwire. That's the nightmare keeping scientists awake. Let's step into their shoes for a moment. You've spent your entire career studying the predictable clockwork nature of the cosmos. Planets orbit, stars burn, comets fly by. It's all elegant and measurable. But now, right in front of you, is an object breaking every rule. It moves with purpose. It shines with metallic glints. It breathes in perfect rhythm. You run the numbers over and over again, hoping the math will betray itself, that you'll find the mistake. But there is no mistake. The numbers are clear. And the clock is ticking. September 2025, less than a year away. The agency's hands are tied. Publicly, they downplay it. Privately, they scramble. Contingency plans circulating emails marked for internal use only. Engineers whisper about emergency missions probes that could be launched in record time to study Atlas up close. But time is short, budgets are strained, and rockets can't be built overnight. Meanwhile, every 17 minutes, Atlas pulses again. A cold reminder that it is not just a rock tumbling blindly through space. Here's the challenge no one can solve. How do you explain this to the public? If you say nothing, you're hiding information that could affect the future of humanity. If you say too much, you risk global panic. Imagine the headlines: alien probe on collision course with Mars. Imagine the fear, the conspiracies, the chaos. Some would laugh it off. Some would riot. Others might lose sleep every night, staring at the sky, waiting for the pulse of a ghostly visitor they'll never see with their own eyes. So, the agencies walk a tightrope. They release fragments of data. They keep most of it buried. And scientists like Loeb, who dare to speak louder, find themselves at the center of controversy once again. But the problem doesn't end with data. It extends to our very understanding of life itself. If Atlas is artificial, it means someone, somewhere out there built it. And if they built it, they sent it. Which raises the most chilling question of all. Why Mars? Why not Earth? Why not sail quietly past like Oumuamua? Why lock onto a trajectory that zeroes in on our red neighbor, the planet we've been studying and dreaming about colonizing for decades? That's the challenge unraveling in the darkest corners of mission control rooms right now. Not just how to stop Atlas, but how to understand its intent. And here's where the fear deepens. Some of the best minds in the field are starting to suspect this may not be a comet at all. It may not even be a probe in the traditional sense. Instead, it could be something far stranger, a kind of messenger, a machine built not just to travel, but to act, to deliver something, to warn, or to test. And if Mars is the stage, what role does Earth play in the story? So let's imagine the different paths ahead. Scenario 1, 3i divided by Atlas continues on its current trajectory and strikes Mars. At 87 kilometers per second, the impact energy would be almost beyond comprehension, the equivalent of millions of nuclear detonations going off at once. Mars would shudder. A crater, perhaps 60 kilometers across, would scar its surface forever. The dust cloud could circle the planet, blotting out sunlight for months, even years. Any probes, rovers, or orbiters caught in the blast radius would be destroyed instantly. The satellites around Mars would be shredded like paper by high-velocity debris. But the story doesn't end there. Some of that debris, depending on its trajectory, could be launched into space, forming a deadly halo of rock and dust. Over time, fragments could drift toward Earth orbit. Even tiny pieces, moving at cosmic speeds, could devastate satellites or even rain down on our atmosphere. It wouldn't be the end of the world, but it would be the start of a very dangerous chain reaction. Now imagine scenario 2. Atlas doesn't hit Mars directly. Instead, it slingshots around the planet, pulled by gravity, and its path is altered yet again. This is the one keeping NASA awake, because if Atlas can steer itself or be steered, Mars might not be the destination at all. It could just be a stepping stone, a maneuver, a way of adjusting its orbit for something else. And what lies beyond Mars? Earth. Scenario 3. Atlas arrives, but instead of impacting, it slows down. The idea sounds absurd. A comet that decelerates? But we already know it pulses like a machine. We already know it reflects light like polished metal. If it slows, parks itself in orbit, or even lands on Mars, that would confirm everything skeptics fear. Atlas is not natural. It's a construct. And if it's a construct, someone, somewhere, made it. Which means intention, which means motive. But here's where the mystery deepens. If Atlas is a probe, why send it in such a destructive way? Why aim it like a weapon? Unless, and this is the chilling part, destruction was never the purpose. Maybe it's a message written in fire, a way of saying, we are here, we are powerful, and we choose where to strike. Let's pull back for a moment and consider history. Humanity has always read omens in the skies. Ancient civilizations feared comets, seeing them as harbingers of doom. In many cultures, a sudden star blazing across the heavens meant war, famine, or the fall of empires. Today, we like to think we're more rational. We know comets are just ice and dust. But what if, just this once, the ancients were right to be afraid? Because Atlas isn't following the script, it's writing a new one. Here's another layer to consider. What if Atlas is not a threat, but a test? Think about it. If you were an advanced civilization watching us, you'd know we've been dreaming about Mars. We've sent probes, rovers, even planning colonies. Mars is our stepping stone into the wider universe. So, what better way to test humanity's readiness than to send something directly toward it, to force us into action, to see if we can cooperate, innovate, and respond under pressure. But that's the optimistic view. The darker one? That Atlas is less a test and more a warning. And the agencies know this. That's why, behind the scenes, they're weighing options. Do they try to intercept it? Do they risk announcing the truth and triggering panic? Or do they wait, quietly watching, hoping that when September 2025 arrives, Atlas misses Mars by a cosmic inch and the whole nightmare becomes nothing more than a strange chapter in astronomical history? But every time the pulses are detected, those eerie rhythmic bursts, every 17 minutes, the unease grows. It feels too deliberate, too measured, like a heartbeat in the dark, echoing across space. And maybe that's what frightens scientists the most. The sense that Atlas isn't just moving, it's alive in some way. Not alive like us, not flesh and blood, but alive as a machine, awake, carrying out a mission written long before humanity ever built its first telescope. Now picture this. Somewhere, out there, far beyond our galaxy, a switch was flipped. A command was sent. And Atlas, dutifully following orders, has been moving toward this moment for centuries, for thousands of years, perhaps longer. And suddenly, Mars is no longer just the dusty red planet in our backyard. It's about to become the stage for something much bigger. Whispers have begun to surface, whispers of meetings behind closed doors, of hushed phone calls between agencies that normally compete rather than cooperate. NASA, ESA, Roscosmos, even China's CNSA and private players like SpaceX, they've all suddenly gone quiet about Atlas. Public statements are generic, sterile, stripped of detail. But inside these circles, the mood is very different. Reports describe a kind of controlled panic. Why Mars? That's the burning question. One theory suggests that Mars was chosen because it's symbolic, humanity's frontier, the planet we dream of colonizing. A direct strike there would be more than destruction. It would be psychological warfare. It would crush the idea that space is ours to conquer. Imagine the headlines. First human colony target obliterated before it was ever born. That alone would send us back decades, maybe centuries. Another theory is far more chilling. Mars isn't the target at all. It's the key. Mars holds something we don't fully understand: magnetic anomalies, traces of methane in the atmosphere, unexplained underground structures captured by radar. Could Atlas be homing in on something? A relic? A signal source? Perhaps Mars has been a beacon all along, a marker planted ages ago, and now something has come to collect it. There's a classified rumor, and remember, rumors in the scientific community often carry a grain of truth, that one of the rovers picked up something strange months ago, a sound, a vibration beneath the Martian surface, faint but rhythmic, not unlike the pulses now coming from Atlas itself. If true, that means the comet and Mars are linked, two ends of a chain we were never meant to see. And what about those 17-minute pulses? Scientists in private briefings have compared them to coded transmissions. A countdown, maybe. A beacon handshake. Some even say the frequency isn't random. It matches mathematical sequences used in early experiments with interstellar communication. If Atlas is signaling, who is listening? This is where the conversation turns darker. Imagine for a moment that Atlas isn't an isolated event. Imagine it's just the first, the scout. What follows after scout? The fleet. Not everyone agrees, of course. Some argue it's natural bizarre, yes, but natural. Others believe it's humanity projecting fear onto a cosmic coincidence. But in those dim-lit meetings, the arguments always end the same way. What if we're wrong? And here's the most unsettling possibility yet. That atlas is not a weapon, not a probe, not even a message, but a trigger, a key turning in a lock. If that's true, then when September 2025 comes and Atlas reaches Mars, something else will begin, something we cannot stop. The thought chills me, because history tells us civilizations fall not from what they expect, but from what they never imagined. September 2025. That's the date circled in red ink on every agency calendar across the world. The month where Atlas either grazes past Mars or carves a scar so deep into the red planet that it echoes across history. The countdown has already begun. Every 17 minutes, the pulses continue unbroken, unwavering, like a heartbeat in the void. Astronomers have started calling it the alien metronome. Each pulse is a reminder. Atlas is still on course, still alive, still choosing. Satellites in Mars orbit are repositioning quietly, as if bracing for impact. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, Odyssey, Maven, all have shifted into unusual alignment. Even the Chinese Tianwen orbiter has gone silent for maintenance. That's not maintenance. That's hiding. They know. The terrifying part? Atlas doesn't drift like a comet. It maneuvers. Each pulse sends out bursts of material, altering its trajectory with precision, almost like thrusters. And the new data is clear. It's not veering away. It's tightening. Each pulse narrows the path toward Mars. The energy release from impact would be unlike anything Mars has faced in billions of years. A crater 60 kilometers wide, dust plumes high enough to veil the sun, shock waves racing across the thin atmosphere. Any spacecraft in orbit destroyed? Any hope of preserving Mars as our next home? Gone in seconds. But it's the aftermath that keeps scientists awake at night, because the debris won't stay there. The impact would scatter fragments of Mars into space, flung like shrapnel across the solar system. Some pieces will find their way to Earth. Not tomorrow, not next year, but eventually. Imagine fragments of Mars raining down through our skies, carrying with them whatever Atlas truly island. And then there's the silence from the agencies. NASA doesn't issue alerts. The ESA doesn't hold press conferences. Harvard's Avi Loeb drops only hints in academic papers, almost as if they know there's nothing we can do. So what does that mean for us? It means September 2025 may not just mark the fate of Mars, but the beginning of a story we never asked to be part of. Maybe Atlas is a warning. Maybe it's a weapon. Or maybe it's a door waiting to be opened. And when that door swings wide, the question isn't whether Mars will survive. It's whether we will. Have you noticed how quiet everything has become? Not in the universe is buzzing, breathing, pulsing with the rhythm of Atlas, but here, on Earth. The silence from those who know the most is almost deafening. When Voyager 1 and 2 crossed into interstellar space, NASA celebrated loudly. When Oumuamua skimmed past our system, papers were published, conferences held, debates broadcast. But with Atlas, the mood is different. The reports trickle out in footnotes, buried in technical jargon. Updates are staggered, vague, almost designed to make you shrug and move on. Why? Because Atlas is rewriting what we thought we knew about comets. Real comets don't accelerate in bursts like a machine with engines. Real comets don't pulse every 17 minutes with the precision of a ticking clock. Real comets don't shift paths as though responding to invisible steering commands. And that's the part no one wants to say out loud. If Atlas isn't a comet, then what is it? Astronomers stare through telescopes night after night, and in their images, they notice the same strange thing. Flashes of light, almost metallic, reflecting in unnatural ways. At first, they thought it was dust, ice, solar glare. But spectroscopy doesn't lie. Those reflections carry a chemical signature. Metals not usually found in such abundance in natural objects. If it's natural, it's the strangest natural body we've ever seen. If it's artificial, then someone or something sent it. And the way Atlas interacts with Mars can't be ignored. It doesn't wander aimlessly through the void. Its course is deliberate, targeted, and yet no distress signal, no message, no attempt to communicate, just silence. Some say the silence is worse than a message, because silence means intent is hidden, and hidden intent means we have no way to prepare. Imagine being an astronaut on the ISS, looking down at Earth while knowing that just one planet over, something not of this world may be lining up its target. You'd feel small. You'd feel fragile. You'd feel like we all do, completely powerless. But here's the strangest thought. Maybe this silence isn't about us at all. Maybe it's Mars. Maybe Atlas isn't a visitor. Maybe it's a return. And if that's the case, then September 2025 won't be the beginning of an invasion. It'll be a reunion. For years, Mars has carried a reputation as the desert of our solar system, dry, cold, lifeless. A place where only dust, storms, and frozen water tell stories of what once was. But what if that's not the whole picture? In the 1,970 seconds, the Viking orbiters sent back images that made people stop and stare. A face carved into a mesa in the Sidonia region. At first, dismissed as shadows. Later, higher resolution pictures dulled the mystery, but not completely. Because even with new angles, something about Sidonia refuses to be explained away. Structures that look suspiciously geometric. Patterns that don't quite match the randomness of nature. And then there's the water. Ancient riverbeds, deltas, dried out oceans. Mars was once alive geologically, climatically, perhaps even biologically. Scientists agree now that the planet once held vast seas, maybe even a thick atmosphere, and where there's water and air, life often follows. So here's a question. If life once thrived on Mars, could intelligence have grown there too? And if it did, what happened to it? Atlas might be part of that answer. The pulsing bursts it releases every 17 minutes are not random. They're almost coded. Think of it as a cosmic heartbeat, repeating, precise, like a signal locked to a pattern. If this were just gas venting from eyes, the timing would wobble. It would be irregular. But Atlas ticks with machine-like discipline. What if it's not a comet wandering into Mars's orbit? What if it's a relic, a machine left behind, drifting through the void until now? And what if its return is intentional? Consider this. Ancient Mars could have faced a disaster, maybe climate collapse, maybe war, maybe something bigger. Imagine a civilization that built a probe, programmed it, and launched it into interstellar space, carrying instructions, maybe even memories. A machine designed to return when the time was right. Now, thousands, maybe millions of years later, Atlas comes back, headed straight for Mars. And while we see danger, maybe what's happening is a homecoming, a long-forgotten machine, built to find its way back to the planet that gave it birth. The terrifying part? If that's true, then the impact might not be an accident at all. It might be part of the plan. Not destruction, but activation. Because when ice and rock collide, they shatter. But when a machine collides, sometimes it wakes up. Beneath the red dust and rust-colored plains, Mars keeps secrets. For years, orbiters have spotted strange shapes, linear shadows, odd ridges, places where the surface refuses to look random. Ground-penetrating radar from previous missions has found layers of ice, pockets of strange reflectivity, and hints that the subsurface might hide caverns or buried structures. Scientists call these anomalies. To the rest of us, they look like pages torn out of a storybook we haven't finished reading. Imagine standing on a quiet plain at dusk, the light soft and thin, and suddenly finding a doorway half buried in sand. You don't know who made it or why. You only know someone or something once passed through. That's what some researchers quietly wonder about Mars. Did something intelligent shape the planet long before we ever looked up? If Atlas is headed for Mars on purpose, it could be aiming for more than a surface strike. It might be heading for those hidden places, pockets of ice, buried caverns, or even mechanical relics that slipped underground when the world changed. Think of it as a key returning to a long-locked chest. When the key hits, the lock might turn. Now add another layer, human plans. The whole idea of going to Mars has moved from science fiction to shipyard reality. Private companies, national space agencies, and researchers have been plotting how to land, how to live, how to grow food in a place with thin air and cold nights. And one name keeps popping up in headlines and planning rooms, alike someone who dreams big and moves fast. Imagine a company building ships the size of apartment blocks, rockets that can be reused like commuter buses, and a mission plan that says we'll have humans on Mars sooner than most people think. That company's idea is to make Mars a second home for humanity, so we don't have all our eggs in one planetary basket. The very thought of Atlas striking Mars brings a new urgency to those plans. If people were thinking of walking on Martian soil or building the first habitats, a collision would change everything. It's not just about pride or money. If we had volunteers on Mars, we'd be talking about lives. If we placed sensitive equipment on the surface labs, Habitats, power systems, those would be at risk. Private missions move fast, but speed also means risk. Governments move slower, but with more planning. In the quiet backrooms where these plans meet, both sides now have the same question. How do we protect what we've sent? And how do we prepare for what might come? There's also a practical side to this human angle. Private teams have rockets, cargo ships, and deep pockets. They can launch probes quickly, design creative intercept ideas, and push new technology into orbit. If anybody could build a mission on short notice to study Atlas up close, or to try a last-minute nudge, the private sector would be a natural partner. But that brings up messy questions. Who decides? Who pays? Who takes the risk? When something as huge as Atlas appears, cooperation becomes the only sane path. But old rivalries, red tape, and pride can slow down even the fastest ship. At the same time, there's a cultural story being written. A private pioneer talking about a Mars colony inspires hope for adventure, for exploration, for new beginnings. But if Mars becomes a target, that same dream becomes fragile. That dream turns to a test. Can humanity set aside arguments and work together when the sky itself is changing its mind about our plans? Let's not forget the tech side. People who design rockets know the limits: speed, fuel, timing. Pushing a craft fast enough to intercept or alter the course of something moving at 87 kilometers a second. 87 kilometers per second would be like trying to catch a lightning bolt with a fishing net. It's not impossible in a science fiction script, but with today's rockets, it's nearly impossible. The only realistic choices are observation, early warning, and careful planning for the aftermath. And the aftermath is its own story. If Atlas hits and kicks material into space, we will suddenly have a new debris field to study. Those fragments might carry clues, minerals, metals, even technology if Atlas is artificial. Private missions could be first to fly through the debris, to scoop samples, to return bits of the mystery home. That's the hopeful part. Even in destruction, there is a hidden chance to learn, to take pieces and use them to build knowledge. There's also the human feeling in all of this. Curiosity mixed with a kind of fear. People who love space have always been explorers at heart. We've risked storms, had near misses, and launched fragile machines into hostile places. The idea that something could steer toward Mars and change the environment we dreamed about is unnerving. It forces us to weigh our appetite for exploration against the very real possibility that exploration itself might awaken things we don't understand. So, in the quiet of late nights, as mission planners sketch trajectories and engineers solder instruments, there's another conversation happening in coffee shops and on late-night live streams. Regular people ask, if Mars holds a secret, do we have the right to pry? If Atlas is a relic coming home, should we welcome it or fear it? And where do private dreams, bold plans to send people and build towns fit into a universe that might not play by our rules? It's a tangled picture. Scientific mystery, planetary danger, human ambition, and the small stubborn hope that we can learn from what falls out of the sky. Whether Atlas is a rock, a probe, or something in between, its approach, forces a choice. Will we respond with cooperation or competition? With wise patience or reckless bravado? History will remember how we answered, because the decisions we make now will shape what Mars looks like for generations to come. That's the narrow of the hourglass. Atlas is moving. The pulse count keeps ticking, and plans that once lived only in dreams may need to be launched into reality or parked on paper before it's too late. Picture the scene. In dimly lit mission control rooms across the world, engineers are sketching on whiteboards and passing coffee-stained printouts across tables. The question in the air is simple. If 3I divided by Atlas really is adjusting its course toward Mars, do we have any way to stop it? At first glance, the answer feels hopeless. This thing is moving at 87 kilometers per second, faster than anything humanity has ever built, faster than our fastest probes. To put it in perspective, the Parker Solar Probe, our speed record holder, cruises at about 150 kilometers per second, only because it slingshots around the sun itself. But for something coming in cold from interstellar space, Atlas's velocity is almost mind-bending. So how do you even think about intercepting it? The first idea that gets floated is the simplest: deflection. It's a concept straight from planetary defense playbooks. NASA has already tested it once, with the DART mission slamming into asteroid Dimorphos and nudging its orbit ever so slightly. It worked beautifully for a rock in our backyard. But Atlas isn't a lazy asteroid. It's coming in like a bullet from another galaxy. Even if we had a rocket ready today, the math says we'd never catch up. Still, the idea sparks conversation. What if we launched something early, like right now? What if private space companies partnered with NASA, ESA, and JAXA to build a nuclear-powered interceptor? Nuclear propulsion isn't science fiction. Concepts like NERVA and Project Orion have been sitting in dusty archives for decades. With enough political will, engineers could dust off the blueprints and build a craft with a shot at catching Atlas. Another idea gets whispered: solar sails. Massive, gossamer sheets of reflective material that catch sunlight like wind in a sail. If you launched 1 year ago, it could rise sunlight's pressure at incredible speeds. But years are what we don't have. September 2025 is right around the corner, and sales don't spring up overnight. Then there's the wild card: lasers. Some scientists imagine building a planetary defense system with massive lasers or microwaves to vaporize small chunks of a rock and nudge its course by changing the way it vents gas. It sounds futuristic, but the truth is, small versions already exist in labs. The issue is scale. You'd need something the size of a city power grid just to make a dent. But here's where it gets stranger. What if Atlas doesn't want to be deflected? Think about those 17-minute pulses, releasing bursts of gas like thruster firings. That's not random venting, that's steering. If Atlas is steering itself, then every deflection attempt would be like trying to push a chess piece while your opponent keeps moving it back. Suddenly, this isn't just a problem of physics, it's a problem of intelligence. That brings up a darker option. What if we try to destroy it? Nukes in space are the elephant in the room. Everyone knows they exist. Everyone knows they'd work in theory. A warhead detonated close enough could break Atlas into smaller pieces. But then what? Do we really want thousands of smaller shards raining down on Mars, or worse, some deflected toward Earth? Sometimes breaking a thing makes it more dangerous. In late-night strategy sessions, a different kind of plan comes forward. Maybe instead of fighting Atlas, we try to talk to it. If those pulses are controlled, maybe they're not just propulsion. Maybe they're a signal. SETI researchers are already running the math. Could we send a beam back, timed to its rhythm, and see if it answers? It sounds wild, but so did the idea of interstellar visitors before Oumuamua. For every sober calculation, there's a human heartbeat behind it. Engineers think of the Mars rovers, now silent, sitting out there like abandoned pets on a playground. They think of orbiters circling in precise lines, machines we built and launched over decades. And they think of what happens if Atlas smashes everything to dust. It's not just science, it's legacy. And maybe, deep down, it's pride. Humanity's first colony dreams are tied to Mars. A strike could erase decades of planning, years of investment, and one of the boldest goals we've ever set for ourselves. To lose Mars to a cosmic intruder, or worse, to an alien machine, wouldn't just be a setback, it would be a wound. But there's one more layer. If Atlas does collide with Mars, the aftermath might be our biggest chance to learn. Shock waves could crack the crust and reveal underground reservoirs. Ejected debris could be captured, studied, even mined. And if Atlas has artificial components, fragments might scatter across the Martian surface like breadcrumbs. The danger is immense, but so is the potential knowledge. So, in the countdown toward September 2025, humanity faces a choice. Do we spend the next year scrambling for interceptors, racing against physics itself? Do we build listening stations, trying to catch a message from the stars? Or do we accept the blow and prepare to study whatever happens next? It's like standing at a fork in a dark forest. One path is defense, another is diplomacy, and the last is patience. But all three paths lead into the unknown. Imagine this. September 2025 arrives. The world has been holding its breath for months. News outlets stream constant updates, live stream counters tick down, and millions of people glance at their phones every hour, waiting for any scrap of information. And then, in one of the most watched broadcasts in history, all eyes turn to Mars. The red planet hangs in the black canvas of space, calm and silent, unaware that something traveling faster than any human craft ever built is bearing down on it. 3. Eye divided by Atlas, dark, metallic, wrapped in a shimmering, pulsing tail, races forward at nearly 87 kilometers per second. To the naked eye, it looks like just another comet. But astronomers know better. They've seen the pulses. The clockwork bursts every 17 minutes, as if a hidden hand is steering it toward its target. In the final hours, spacecraft orbiting Mars send back crisp images. Atlas is no longer just a bright dot, it's a jagged object, glinting unnaturally in the sunlight, its surface scarred with metallic veins. Panels or ridges shimmer like armor. Every image raises more questions than answers. Is this a comet? Or is this something else entirely? The countdown to impact becomes a heartbeat for Earth, and then contact. In a silent instant, Atlas slams into the Martian surface near the equator, releasing energy equivalent to millions of nuclear bombs. For a fraction of a second, Mars glows. The shock wave ripples across the planet like rings in water, flattening everything in its path. A blinding plume of dust and molten rock shoots into the sky, higher than Olympus Mons, higher than anything ever seen before. From orbit, cameras capture the devastation. A new crater nearly 60 kilometers wide yawns open, its edges glowing red with molten rock. Mars trembles, its thin atmosphere shuddering as shock waves ripple outward. Debris arcs into space, some pieces small as pebbles, others the size of cities, slowly curling into orbit around the planet like a deadly halo. For the first time in human history, we watch a cosmic collision in real time. Back on Earth, silence grips the world. Cities pause, cars stop at green lights, and millions stare in awe at their screens. It's not just science anymore, it feels personal. Mars, the planet we dreamed of colonizing, the planet we sent our rovers to explore, the planet Elon Musk promised would be humanity's backup home, it's been scarred forever. But even as dust settles on Mars, questions erupt here at home. The impact isn't the end, it's the beginning. Scientists scramble to study the plume rising into space. They track fragments of Atlas now in orbit around Mars. They analyze the shock waves, the crater, the glowing gases, and then whispers begin. Some of the fragments don't look natural. Among the rock and ice, shards of metallic material glitter, reflecting light in ways no natural element should. And then comes the fear. Because what's launched into orbit doesn't stay in orbit. Some debris begins to escape Mars's gravity, slingshotting into space. Small pieces head outward into the solar system, but others begin drifting closer to Earth. Astronomers calculate timelines. Some fragments could reach our neighborhood within years, maybe decades. The world realizes something chilling. Atlas hasn't just struck Mars. It may have changed the entire solar system. And as the dust clears, the questions grow louder. Was this really a random interstellar traveler? Or was it sent here on purpose? If Atlas had intelligence guiding it, then impact might not have been the end of its mission, it might have been the start. Imagine being alive at that moment, watching Mars transform before your very eyes, knowing that in just minutes, humanity had witnessed something no generation before us ever had a direct message from the cosmos, written in fire and stone. Some people feel awe, some feel terror, and some feel something else, curiosity. Because if Atlas has left behind fragments of technology, Mars may now hold the greatest discovery in human history. But to find it, we'll have to go there. That's when Elon Musk's Mars mission takes on new meaning. No longer just about colonization or exploration, it becomes a race to uncover the truth. The impact may have lasted only seconds, but its consequences ripple outward for decades. Mars, once a silent red desert, is now a wounded planet. And Earth knows it can't just watch from afar. Within days, the world's governments call emergency summits. The United Nations hosts urgent meetings where scientists, military leaders, and politicians sit together, trying to decide how humanity should respond. The problem is clear. We've just witnessed a cosmic event with implications far beyond science. Fragments from Atlas are in orbit around Mars. Some of them are glowing faintly, pulsing the same way the comet did before impact every 17 minutes, like a signal that refuses to die. Others are drifting dangerously toward interplanetary space, their trajectories unpredictable. Astronomers warn that if even one fragment crosses Earth's path, the results could be catastrophic. But what terrifies leaders most isn't the danger of impact. It's the possibility of intelligence, because those fragments don't behave like ordinary debris. Some of them seem to adjust their spin. Others reflect light as if covered in polished metal. A few even appear to change velocity, almost as if they're maneuvering. Suddenly, this isn't just a scientific question. It's a security threat. The United States, China, and Russia begin racing to design missions to Mars, each determined to be the first to land inside the crater. Billions of dollars flow into emergency aerospace programs. Satellite launches accelerate. Secretive defense projects, once shelved, are revived. The space race of the 20th century suddenly feels like child's play compared to the new competition unfolding. And in the middle of all this, Elon Musk. For years, Musk had promised that SpaceX would get humans to Mars, but many dismissed it as fantasy, a dream decades away. Now, suddenly, the world needs what he's been building. Starship rockets are tested, pushed to their limits, repurposed for rapid deployment. SpaceX goes from private company to essential global partner almost overnight. Musk himself, never one to shy away from attention, declares boldly, "We are going to Mars not just to explore, but to discover. Humanity deserves to know the truth." It's a statement that electrifies the world. Social media explodes. Some call him reckless. Others hail him as humanity's last hope. For the first time, colonizing Mars isn't about survival in the distant future. It's about uncovering answers right now. But not everyone is on the same page. Conspiracy theories flood the internet. Some claim Atlas was never natural at all, but a probe sent to test Earth's defenses. Others whisper that governments already know the truth and are hiding it. Still, others believe Atlas wasn't a warning, but an invitation, a cosmic breadcrumb left for us to follow. Meanwhile, scientists study the data coming in from orbiters. The crater is not ordinary. Seismic sensors reveal structures deep beneath the surface, patterns too precise to be natural. Something may have been buried in Mars for millions of years, waiting for Atlas to arrive. And here's the strangest part. The shock waves of the impact uncovered geometric shapes, massive hexagonal patterns etched into the Martian crust, stretching for kilometers. No known geological process could explain them. To many, it looks like ruins. The question that keeps everyone awake at night isn't just, what was Atlas? It's, what did Atlas wake up? Because if Mars was chosen as its target, there may be more to the red planet than dust and rock. As missions are prepared, a new fear begins to spread not just among scientists, but among ordinary people. What if we're not racing toward discovery? What if we're racing toward something that doesn't want to be found? And yet, the ships keep preparing. Launch windows are calculated, astronauts train in silence, aware they may be walking into the most dangerous mission in human history. The world watches, torn between hope and dread. Because, in the end, curiosity always wins. The countdown begins. It's a bright morning in Boca Chica, Texas, where SpaceX has lined up its fleet of starships like silver giants standing against the horizon. Cameras roll, news outlets stream live, and billions of people around the world hold their breath. This isn't just another rocket launch, it's the most watched broadcast in human history. On board, a crew of 12 astronauts, handpicked from NASA, ESA, SpaceX, and even private contractors, prepare for what may be the most dangerous journey humanity has ever attempted. Their mission is simple on paper: reach Mars, land near the Atlas crater, and investigate. But everyone knows the truth. It's not just exploration. It's confrontation with the unknown. The voice of mission control crackles through. Starship 1, engines are go. Countdown at T-minus 30 seconds. Inside the cabin, the crew exchange nervous glances. They've trained for years, but nothing could have prepared them for this. Each of them has a personal reason for being here. Some scientific, some patriotic, some deeply personal. And yet, beneath all of it, there's a shared sense of history. If they succeed, their names will never be forgotten. The engines ignite, rattling the earth beneath them. The starship roars to life, flames blasting against the launch pad, and in seconds, the vehicle surges upward, cutting through the clouds. Billions of eyes follow it, some with pride, some with fear. Because once that rocket leaves Earth, there's no turning back. As the hours stretch into days, the crew settles into the monotony of space travel. Weightlessness becomes routine. Meals are carefully rationed, and conversations drift between mission tasks and personal confessions. The outside world seems distant now, a blue marble slowly shrinking behind them. But there's tension in the air. The further they travel, the stronger the feeling grows, like something is watching them. At first, it's just paranoia. A crew member swears they saw a glint in the distance. Another claims they picked up a strange signal, faint but rhythmic. The engineers dismiss it as static. The scientists insist it's imagination. But deep down, no one is convinced. On the 15th day of the journey, the signal returns. This time, it's undeniable. Every system on board picks it up a pulsing tone, repeating every 17 minutes, exactly like the bursts Atlas gave before impact. The cabin falls silent as the crew exchange wide-eyed looks. "Is it coming from Mars?" the captain asks. "Negative," replies the communications officer, his voice unsteady. "It's closer. Somewhere between us and the planet." The room chills. Outside the windows, space looks the same, as always an endless black canvas speckled with stars. But somewhere in that void, something is moving, something waiting. The crew debates whether to investigate. Some argue it could be vital data. Others insist it's too dangerous, but the choice is soon made for them. The starship's sensors light up an object is trailing them. It's small, fast, and keeping a perfect distance, as if studying them. Not space debris, not an asteroid. Something with intent. For the first time in the mission, fear becomes real. The captain issues the order, stay on course, do not engage. But the object doesn't leave. It follows, day after day. By the time Mars comes into view, the crew are exhausted, their nerves stretched thin. The red planet hangs before them, massive and silent, with the scar of the Atlas crater glaring like an open wound. And still, the object trails behind, waiting, watching. As they begin descent preparations, the pulsing signal grows louder every 17 minutes, relentless. It's almost as if Mars itself is alive and calling them closer. The ship rattles as it breaks through Mars' thin atmosphere, its hull glowing from the friction of entry. The crew grips their seats, hearts pounding. Below them, the planet stretches endlessly, a world of red dust, ancient valleys, and now a new scar that could change everything humanity knows. The Atlas crater fills the viewport, 60 kilometers wide, jagged, and still shimmering with strange metallic debris. It looks less like a natural impact and more like the aftermath of a weapon. Around its edges, fragments glint in the sunlight, almost arranged like ruins or wreckage of something far more deliberate. The starship lands. Dust rises in slow motion, and silence falls. One by one, the crew descends onto the Martian soil. Their boots leave the first human prints near the crater. But instead of celebration, unease takes hold. The ground trembles faintly. The repeating signal grows stronger, now vibrating through their suits. It isn't just a sound, it's a rhythm, like a heartbeat. At the edge of the crater, they see it. A massive object half buried in the red sand, dark and angular. Nothing like a comet. Its surface is scarred, but its shape is unmistakable, designed, constructed, engineered. A ship. And as the crew approaches, lights flicker along its hull. It isn't dead. It's waiting. The captain whispers the final log into the recorder. If anyone hears this, Atlas was never a comet. It's something else. And we're not alone on this planet. The recording cuts out. The screen fades to black. If you're still here, you already know this story is just beginning. What do you think Atlas really is? Drop your theories in the comments, and if you want to keep uncovering mysteries the world doesn't want you to know, hit subscribe and watch the next video popping up on your screen right now. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.